So, Surya did a great job of introducing me, more importantly, the NGO. So, if all of you thought today's lecture was free, it is not. I'm going to give you all a form to donate. So, seriously, I've got the form there. So, what do we do? Very quickly, I'll talk on the NGO before getting on to the main topic. We run 41 schools which are digital schools. The important thing over here is I want you to think through 3 questions. Ponder these 3 questions. I don't need an answer. Just think through the 3 questions that you have. And I jotted it down over here. I said, okay, who has the courage to put your child through open school? So do you have the courage in you to put your child through an open school? So think about it. The second question is, do you have the courage to let your child follow her or his passion? So when it comes to the critical point of, going towards an engineering program or getting into dance, and we are wondering, okay, is this the right thing to do? And then the third question is, how do you look at delinking success/happiness and money? All are necessary, by the way. I'm not going to say money is not needed and that we cannot live in that world. We are in a world where money is needed. But we seem to link everything, every aspect to money. So how do you try looking at delinking that and therefore taking a call in terms of how you want to go about this whole thing? So if you want to look at education and creativity in education, I want to also ask you another, make a statement. If you want it to happen, you should make it happen. If you let it happen, you may not like what happened. Correct? So, and that's the situation today. We were all born into at least some of us, were born into the industrialized age. Correct? So and our thinking is completely industrialized. I brought 10,000 people to the factory to work. Now I'm bringing 10,000 people into an office to do BPO work or back office work. I am also bringing 2,000, 3,000 children to a school. Yeah, centralized location, one place, driven by 2 aspects. One called economy, so economies of scale, and therefore trying to bring the thing down. And secondly, focused on the intellectual quotient, the IQ. So 2 aspects, 2 basic assumptions on which our whole thing has been built. And why? Because we should get our children ready for a job. That's what drives. And nothing wrong in that, by the way, because that's where we were born into. How many of us are wearing a watch today? Let me ask a question. How many of us are not wearing a watch today? Wow, this is great. Because typically, foggies like me, we end up wearing a watch. Whether I look at this watch or not is a different thing, but I keep wearing this watch. Look at the new ones, new kids, the 18 years, they don't. Why? It's in a more, if you look at it slightly more deep, you go and ask them why they don't wear a watch, they say it can do only one function. True. Correct? Showing the time. Of course, I add it also shows date, etc. But more importantly, it does only one function, and these kids are not interested in one function stuff. Everything has to be multiple.
Very interested if it is an Apple Watch.
Yeah, very interested if it's an Apple one.
Correct. Interested in knowing the time they want to live their life.
So what happens is, if you look at the way we have structured and gone across our education, it is all driven by the fact that you need to end up getting a job. There's an economic factor to it and there is an intellectual factor to it. What then has happened is, you have and all of us have let us ourselves get trained on one side of the body, which is called the left brain, and focused crazily on it. That has also resulted in more focus in math and science, because that was what the industrial age needed. Second, focus in humanities and commerce. And the last one came on art. So all these guys who can't study, useless guys, failing, just about creeping through, guys,
I was forced to do
art,
that.
art is for you. Music, dance is for you. Okay, go there. All failure guys, land up there. By the way, I play the guitar. So all these guys were bunched in that one aspect of our learning process, which also meant that we did not realize how the brain works. What we did to the brain was make it linear function. I get into first standard, I do a set of exams, second set of exams, third, like that. Become an engineer through a set of 15, 16, maybe 18, 20 exams. You're done with it, ready for a job. Linear function. Whereas what is life? Our life puts us in a situation which is totally dynamic. It's not linear. It can be linear at some points in time, but not necessarily always. So it is a dynamic thing. And it keeps on changing. And we need to adapt to that change. And what therefore we need is a brain that is able to connect the dots. And what makes us connect the dots is, unfortunately for all of us, the right side of the brain. So suddenly, the guitarist in me got into a premium. Instead of being shunned to the last part of the classroom. But we don't test ourselves for this. So what are we teaching our children? Math, science, great. I mean, you should know those aspects. I am not going to deride any of the things that we are doing. It's only the how that needs to be looked at. So let me introduce my schools. So my wife runs these schools. So today I work for my wife. We run 2 Montessori schools. We are focused on the age group of 2 years to 6 years. And purely the Montessori method, which actually, by the way, had recognized this aspect. Learning at that age group was look, feel, touch, sense, bite, do whatever you can. And through your senses, you take in the learning. Even for us, it is experiential learning. And for all of you who know this piece in L&D, it's action learning, correct? That is the best part of our learning process. So unless you have experienced it, it is within the realm of your experience, we don't seem to understand it. So someone came up with a good joke on this one. So he said, you remember the story of the tree that fell in some part of the world. Now you didn't hear the tree fall. So did the tree really fall? Correct? That's the realm. And he said, I'm just extending it, and this is where the joke came in. He said, so I am a man and I'm standing in this factory, in this forest, and I'm saying something, and the lady didn't hear it, my wife didn't hear it. Does it still mean I'm wrong? That is what is life. If it doesn't get into our realm, it is not there as far as we are concerned. So how do you bring it to the realm? How do you extend that learning? And what was it that the Montessori method was trying to look at? So it said, look at age-appropriate learning. 2 to 6, touch, feel, sense, do everything. 6 and beyond, bring in a little bit of abstract. And how you mix that abstract into real life learning. Why do children fear math? Because suddenly at some point in time in 5th standard or 6th standard, 1, 2, 3, 4 became X, Y, Z, A, B, C. Honestly, it terrified the heck out of me. And then when I went in and I started learning logarithms, for me log 5 plus log 6 was log 11. It was never log 30. I just couldn't figure this out. I didn't even know why they had put a log over there.
The tree fell down.
Math. Math. My son gave it a name. Rather, extended and called it MATH is mental abuse to humans.
That's a nice one. I'll have to
He plays cricket and he told me in math exam I could score only 100, but in cricket I could score more than 100.
Great one. That's a great one. So what we do is we do not take the fear out of learning somehow and try and bring it the interconnectedness in this. There are 2-3 reasons for this. One is we don't give the time. So let's say you gave your child, okay, here are all the letters A, B, C, D up to Z. I'm giving this to you, a bunch of them. Now take and form 3 words which end with the letter T. Where the kid is scratching his head, he's trying to figure out, okay, what are these words? He's 3 years old. What do? Within some 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, you're starting to help him. Correct? And then if he still doesn't get it, you're getting upset. Anger is setting in. My son, and he's not able to write a 3-letter word. So, come on. Can pot be a word? Huh? You're getting upset. You're not giving the child the time to think through, to come up with his answer. Now this kid got very smart. So he came up with his first word. He said, cop. That's it. You're gone because you wanted T. Correct? It had to end with T. What did he do? Cop. C-O-P. He literally copped it. So what did you do? You're turning around and you're telling him, Akal, use your head, do something about it. Correct? We are not allowing him to make a mistake. It's the second point. 1, you're not giving him time. 2, you're not allowing him to make a mistake and learn from it. That's the biggest issue that we have. And 3rd, we are not interconnecting everything that we learn to make the experience come to life for him. It has to come to life. So when I'm sitting in the garden teaching him something about a plant, you should turn around and tell him, hey, half your lung is in that plant because that's the one which is giving you the oxygen. Correct? If he realizes internally, spiritually, that half his lung is in that plant over there, you tell me, why do you need to lecture to him on preserving the environment? You don't need to do that. He realizes that his life is already linked to that plant. He's not going to destroy it. That's why we didn't have any environmental education in the past in India. Because spiritually we understood that this was the reality. So given this situation, how do we shift to creativity? And I would say that what we have done, and it has worked well for us at our school, we were the first preschool, not a higher school. We were the first preschool in the world which put the concept of multiple intelligence into action. Multiple intelligence in action. So we were the first preschool we did that. What is multiple intelligence? So the concept of multiple intelligence, it's a theory written by a person called Howard Gardner. 8. There are 8 different intelligences, with the 9th one not being measured because it's not measurable. So this is your gurus who have that spiritual dimension, which they cannot corroborate with data, and therefore left aside 8 different intelligences. An example of an intelligence is a musical intelligence. An example of an intelligence is kinesthetic, where I can use my body well. An example of intelligence is spatial. An example of an intelligence is logical thinking. Correct? So what the theory is, when 2 or more intelligences combine, a skill is born. So an example, I'm musically intelligent, I'm kinesthetically intelligent, body intelligence, combined together I become a dancer. I am spatially intelligent and I am kinesthetically intelligent, combined together Sachin Tendulkar. What does he do? He walks into the pitch. While he's tapping the pitch, he's also looking around to see where the people are positioned. In a split second, his mind has already picked up the spatial aspects of this. He knows where to place the ball to get a 4. That is the spatial intelligence. Combine spatial intelligence with logical thinking and logical intelligence. An architect, maybe a civil engineer. Combine verbal intelligence and interpersonal intelligence, where I'm able to speak well as go well with people, Narendra Modi. Any leader for that matter. So when 2 or more intelligences start combining, a skill is born. Now if you work somewhere where you can use that skill, which is natural in you, you're going to be happy with the job that you do. If you end up doing something else.
But Ravi, that's the problem with the world, right? 90% of people are in that somewhere else world, and then
80% of our engineers
don't want to be one actually. Didn't want to be one.
This is the reality. And do you know that the statistic says that by the time I finish this speech, he gave me 30 minutes. By the time I finish this speech, 2 kids would have committed suicide because of the education system somewhere in this country. 2 kids would have committed suicide. And this is the reality, guys. So we need to look at it differently. So in our schooling, we looked at it as, because we were looking to this age group, we were able to implement it through the Montessori method, where we looked at interconnectedness of math and logic and language and biology and zoology. We were able to interconnect it and bring it to the world, to them, bring it within the realm of experience. And then we also looked at connecting the culture. How do you connect and bring in the culture so that the children are the carriers of culture over the next generations? And that is how they are able to become the change agents of the future. So that's what we did from a schooling perspective. What we need to do in higher schools is to look at developing on this and actually developing more of the critical thinking skills, which is this what I call as connecting the dots inside our heads. And as parents, actually we have the same thing. Can we pledge over here, apart from going to pledge to my NGO, can you also pledge that you will spend at least half an hour with your child every day?
More than that,
At least half an hour. Mentally, pledge to yourself. Doing nothing, just listening to her or himself. Just listen. That is all the child needs. So what you are doing with that is actually bringing him out of the cyber world into the real world of human beings, into flesh, blood, emotions. Bring him into that world rather than getting him to spend more and more time on some gadget, correct? Maybe the TV, maybe anything else that we do. So there are different things that schools can do. Schools can look at how do we look at the multiple intelligence aspect of this child and get this child to play to his strengths. The minute he's playing to his strength, everything else around him changes. He's more confident. He becomes more self-aware. He knows what he's not good at. I think that's what becomes more important. And for him, that self-esteem starts growing up. And when you look at self-esteem, there are 3-4 things that you need to develop within the child, and this is what schools must do, and this is what parents, you must do as well. 1, accept the child for what he or she is. I could not get into IIT Gaga, I want you getting into IIT. Correct? I don't care what you do. I could not get into IIT, boss, but you have to. Otherwise, this thing is gone. Name is gone. So don't do that, please. Let us look at accepting the child for what he or she is. And it's not easy to do. It is not easy because we refuse to see the child as an individual and see the child as an extension of ourselves.
It's our ego as well, Ravi.
That's what
Directly our ego.
plays
is-
through.
Yeah.
That's a culture also. It's a culture.
See the child as an extension. We refuse to see the child as an individual. So somewhere we must do that. The second one. Okay, boss, how much marks did you get? This is my marks card. I got 92. How much did Ashok get?
Comparison.
95. Gone.
Gone.
Correct? We have forgotten to celebrate that this child came with 92. The first thing we did was compared him with someone else and said, look, he beat you. I think we should stop comparing as well as parents. But somewhere,
It is a delicate. I can just one example. I was telling my daughter the same. She's 8.5 years old. So once she got some 17 out of 20 in a class, and folks at home were saying, "What is this like 17 and you should get 19, 20?" So I told her it's better than getting 15. Next test she got 13, but on the way back home she bought chocolates to celebrate 13 out of 20, saying next time I'll get more.
I just want to wait.
Yeah, I just feel good about 13 out of 20.
you had a point.
So, yeah, you said 92, you don't compare to 95, but if the child comes with 42,
That's what.
then what do you do?
That is what I'm telling you. Where have we taken the education to? See, we have taken the education to the fact that unless the child gets 80, 90, 95, that child is good for nothing. But why? Child is good for so many other things. The only thing is we have linked that success to making money or getting a job. Correct? And that's a reality of the situation also today. There are so many professions or skills which are not making money, enough money to survive. And that's where we have been pushed to. So very real problem we have. So I have two daughters and I'll give you the examples of what we are doing with them. And it also brings to a point which I want you guys to ponder about. So my first one was a first grade singer, the commercial grade singer. She sung for a couple of movies, she had done TV shows, all that stuff before she finished 10th grade. So I thought, here's this one who's going to become a singer, wonderful. What I had not realized at that time, and when she was in 6th grade, I had taken her to a Times of India Sudoku competition. And she was the only school girl who had made it to the final. Everyone else in that final round were engineers who had passed and were working somewhere. She was the only school girl. It didn't strike me that she was actually very good in math. She was amazing in math. So today she does data sciences. She's doing an MS program in data sciences. And she said, I want to teach machines. I'm not interested. I want to write algorithms. I want to be with pure math. And this is where I am. This is what my life is. I don't want to be a singer part. I said, great. Do that. Now the second one saw that and said, no, I don't want to be with math, I don't want to be with science. And she's a dancer. She's in 9th grade, but she's almost finished equivalent of a degree in dance already. And that's where she wants her life to be. Now the question I'm fine with it. The question I want you to ponder over here is culturally, because you brought about a point on culture. Culturally, it's okay for women, girl, I have a girl child. Okay? It's okay if she studies anything, I don't care. Why? Because whoever she gets married to, that guy will take care of her. I'll ensure she gets married to a rich guy. See the psyche, so it doesn't matter. So literally, actually, girls have more leeway than guys like us. We need to be an engineer or doctor, otherwise we are failures in life.
No, sir, this
So-
happens with girls also.
No, so that is what. So slowly that thing is changing.
If you don't become
If
an
we
engineer,
do
you will
not-
not get an
Yeah,
engineer.
if we husband, don't get an engineering husband, but be careful. But don't do MBA because I can't search for an MBA husband for you. Okay. So the bias that starts coming in as parents is something that we also need to keep cognizant of. So when you're looking at a child, accept the child for what he or she is. Now, I had a real life situation, it was something very similar to what you would have seen in this Amir Khan movie, correct? Where that father is unwilling to accept that his child is dyslexic. The same situation where we had a child who was a slow learner, autistic, but you can't classify a child as autistic before the age of 7. So here these parents walk in and gave a very rough time to my wife, and so my wife just called me and said, Ravi, I need help. I can't handle these guys. So I walked into the school that time, and this was about 4 years ago. So this guy looks at me and says, sir, I need to first set things right for you. I'm an IIM graduate. This is my wife, she's IIM. I said, so. The child has to be IIM, no? So I looked at him and said, no. Child is different character, boss. Why are you doing
Unfortunately, IIM was not there.
Why are you doing this? We're ruining his life. He's going good. He's good. He's got a skill set. He's different. But understand, he's a slow child. Oh, your school is useless. Your school doesn't know how to manage geniuses. Maybe you're right. Maybe actually you're not recognizing that this child is a genius. Maybe something is wrong also. Why don't we get him assessed? It's an easier thing. No assessment. I can't put my child through assessment. Pulls the child out and puts him into a school which is a very, very reputed school in Bangalore. I won't mention its name. Which is which is all about academics. The school is all about academics. Puts him in that school. 3 months later, school kicks the child out. How old is the child? 5 years. Kicks the child out. Why? Because he couldn't solve this maths problem. 3 months. Fellow comes back to me, parents come back to me, what do we do? I said, first please help the child. Understand, all of us have the same objective, whether it's the school or whether it is you, have the same objective, how to help the child. So let's focus on that. And we shifted out. But that mentality, if I am this, my child has to be this, needs to go away from each of us.
Ravi, but this is now more of a norm of the society, and it doesn't really just apply to the parents. I've seen it in my kids. My son, he got a 9.2 in his 10th class. I was fairly fine, nothing else, but he was really depressed. No, I should have got more. And we never forced him in any form whatsoever.
Correct. No, but what intervention will you do to that child? To make him feel happy about what it is. Why is he feeling sad about it? It's because we have the environment. No,
it's the environment, peer pressure, but not at home, outside of home.
No, anywhere.
Yes.
The environment that is created by our industrialized thinking is exactly this. If I don't get 99, I won't get into the best school, correct? There's some school in Delhi which had a cutoff of 100.
Yeah,
How can you have a cutoff of 100?
priced for 11th.
Yeah.
My son got 9.6 in his 10th. We applied and he wanted to study commerce by choice. And they said, no, we have already 18 people with 10 on 10. 9.6, we will not even accept the form. Because the general quota is only 6 people.
Correct.
But Ravi, I've got a point here. I mean, so on the other side of it, we are talking of changing or at an individual area of influence. So many of us have worked in corporate, so many of us in responsible positions. Show me one corporate which delineates academic performance in their recruitment policy. We have been HR heads, we have been learning specialists, we have been OD heads. My company, other company, every company, including companies abroad, there is a focus. Companies, big bellwethers in India, they start from the 10th standard. Some of them have now come down to 60% probably, but there is a definitely. So I'm going for this HR. So at the areas of position for external people, we try to put these things. For us, because we are going to be bringing them up in the same environment. So is there any, with your experience, is there any body or school of people who are trying to question this efficacy, questioning and implementing it in practice?
So, I haven't come across a company which does this till now. except for a few analytics companies that I'm working with now, where we are challenging that paradigm, where we are shifting and telling that forget your marks, check that guy with your own testing parameter. By the way, Accenture is now looking at that.
Sir,
Yeah, Accenture is, no, not just from a performance-based, not performance listening, recruitment. They are looking at it to, they have had their head of HR, Magesh. He just finished, and the principal introduced me to a parent whose child was studying in that school. His child is in 8th grade, but is not developed to that age. So she doesn't have any contextual thinking. But she's passing all exams. Can you believe this? She has no contextual thinking. So the example her dad gave me was, Ravi, let's assume that there is this Pepsi shop over there and somebody's planted a bomb and we are witnessing this scene. Bomb goes off, 100 people dead bodies all over. You ask her what did she see, she'll say that Pepsi bottle is still remaining, it didn't break. It's about the only thing she can come up with as an answer. Highly detached, no context, zero context. But when she sees people, she'll just connect with you. If she's able to see that you're able to see her, she's able to connect with you, and the connection is at a level which I was just flummoxed. I couldn't figure out what this connection was with this child for me. It just ended up being where, when she sees you, she'll get excited. She'll show you, she'll make you feel that I am excited in your presence. Thank you for being here with me. Without saying that. Imagine and experience that connection. Your whole dimension to life changes. And I think that is what somewhere we have to look at the spiritual angle, where spiritual doesn't mean I'm not asking you to go and tell the child to follow a religion or sit in front of God. Nothing of that. It is, can you bring that inner peace, calm and confidence in the child? That's it. Bring that inner peace. You bring that inner peace into the child, the rest the child will take care of himself. You don't need to intervene too much on this. And I have seen this. And somehow, for me, this few months earlier when I had this experience, I felt that this girl, youngster, 8th standard girl, who didn't understand a damn about our context in this world, was actually happier than me. So how do you then define happiness? Correct? End of the day, we are doing all this so that we can be happy.
Sort of, yes.
Sort of, at least. Correct? I'm not telling don't give up. I'm not telling give up money, give up this. No, you have to live in this world. Everything is needed. It is needed in certain quantities.
There has to be a balance.
Has to be a balance. Look at what that balance is. Figure out what you think you want that balance to be. And as a parent, as I said, give time to learn. Accept the child for what he or she is. Do not compare. Give that time to learn. Put him in a school where you think he is best suited given his skill sets. Put him in a school that will look at overall development. And there are so many schools that are doing that. Why I asked you that first question is, and would you like to put your child through an open university or an open schooling system? There is a school, I don't get its name, it's eluding me. There is a school in Bangalore.
What is open schooling system?
So open schooling system is like instead of ICSE and CBSE, you have
Government of
open
India's
schooling.
school. Government of India school.
Yeah, Government of India school. So anyone, you can sit at home, study and go do that exam.
Basically the sports-
Now, unfortunately, what has happened is, children who fail go through that. So we have stigmatized that. But there is the school in Bangalore where there are 70 children studying. all of them go through this open schooling up to 10. Right now it is up to 10, and they will hopefully take it up to 12
That
shortly.
school is very popular among the sports persons.
Not just that, do you know that in the last 10 years that this guy has been, more than 10 years that he's been running the school, every year at least 4 or 5 kids get into an Ivy League college.
It's amazing.
And that's the reality. So our term of successful is there as well. Future is made. But we are refusing to accept that. And honestly, it is difficult to bring it in scale. This is the reality. That is why our current system. Give an alternate to the current system. We can go curse the current system. This is not working.
There's
Industrialized. It is doing this. Na. Is there an alternate? If there's an alternate, somebody would have at least done it. Correct? The volumes that we have, we are struggling with the volumes. So we need to figure out a volumes for that. And that was what we were looking at when we launched our NGO, to see how do I teach at that level. I don't ask everyone to come into a huge school. I teach 50 kids, 40 kids, and I'm able to focus and teach them something. And somewhere at some point in time we will move away from literacy only to focusing on learning. Now I'll stop here. I'll take his question first.
Sir, both my parents are IS officers, okay? And my dad expected my brother to become an IS officer. But my brother is now a chartered accountant. But the realm of what I'm trying to speak about is, I got 42, passing mark was 40. Okay, I got 42 out of 100 in math. There was Nandan Kamath who got 100 out of 100 in math. But we still went from the 7th standard into the 8th standard. Okay. Every fellow, every character got 56. That fellow got 72 also went into the 8th standard. That fellow got 41 also got into the 8th standard. Okay. My teacher, Mrs. Kulkarni, told me this profound thing, which I realized only 2 weeks ago. It hit me like a sledgehammer. I'm a trainer. I train at various NGOs, post schools, and this and that. She taught us one thing. She said, you may fail in math, you may fail in physics, you may fail in chemistry, but if you fail in English, you never succeed. Teaching children, simple fact, communicate and life skills. Everything else will be covered in this answer. Even a guy who's selling chai is an entrepreneur today. The fellow who's running Reliance also an entrepreneur today. The simple fact is just give us our freedom as parents or whatever, and I think you have it to that. It's not so complicated.
Great one. Great. Just a minute. We had a question. Yeah, please. Go ahead.
I think very thought-provoking discussion, and help us to think in a different dimension. Just to add one thing, because as you rightly said, we have also started thinking in this direction of creative learning. One of my friend's daughter, she was studying a school called Creative School in Whitefield. It's a very kind of an open school like this. So I went to her and said, and she's finished the 12th grade. And like any normal person, I asked her, okay, what's your plan after 12th? What are you planning to do? Engineering or doctor? What are you planning to do? She looked at me and said, no uncle, I've decided to take a 1 year break. And the whole 1 year I'm going to really spend time in really understanding what I wanted to do. And then after 1 year, probably I'll join something which interests me. So I think whatever you said correlates very well with how we are thinking about it.
Absolutely. And also the reality today of the situation is, if you look at IITs, they're not going full today. Because most of the guys have now turned around and told IITs, if you don't give us the subject that we want to study, we don't want to turn up over there. So this time, few of the IITs didn't get any candidates, and they had to go into their third cutoff, whatever they call it. They had to go into third cutoff and still couldn't fill.
So Ravi, on the lines that you were actually talking about.
1 minute was.
Yes, sorry.
There was one person.
I'll just take 3 minutes to extend what Ravi mentioned on the Montessori method. I think everybody should read this book by Dr. Maria Montessori, The Absorbent Mind. And I've gone through parts of it because my wife is a Montessori teacher. Last 10 years she is teaching. She has classified the years from 0 to 3 and 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12, 15, up to 24.
24, yes.
Up to the age 24. So it's just not that when we relate that a child needs to be given this freedom and that freedom or whatever it is, it's important for us to relate at what stage that child is. So whether it is a participative year or a formative year, she says that from 16, the child is ready to bear children. She is ready to produce. So we have to prepare the child, and that's where the guidance is required. It's just not free. So there is an element of guidance which needs to be done. So my point is, when we refer to the children of today, let's also refer which stage of their formation are they. Is it formative year, participative year? So therefore and she is currently in Chennai to do a higher study in Montessori from 9 to 12 years. So 1.5 years she's going to be in Chennai, and I was doing some bit of review of the papers. So it's great learning for all of us. And let's always refer back to that. What stage of formation is the child in? So there are times when we need to give guidance. You just can't leave the child like that. Thanks.
No, absolutely correct. 50% of our learning or more is actually at home, correct?
Yeah.
And from the environment in which the child is growing, and and at the stage of development. If you protect the child and if you remain protective of the child, let me just rephrase it. If you remain protective of the child and then come adolescent, tell the child, okay, now you're on your own, where's his preparation? He's not prepared to face the world. So what are we doing at that age to say that, hey, I'm guiding you to get ready for, and that's where when he talked about life skills, it becomes critical. Yes.
No, so I was in a very interesting discussion with the director of Bethany schools, So it started off by him complaining about his own teachers and professors. And he said, like, sometimes I feel like I'm running 10 schools within one school, because chemistry HOD is battling with physics HOD, and the games teacher is coming to blows with the music teacher, all kind of stuff happening. So it's trying to see, can we use harmonica to bring harmony? Now, it's true story. It's a true story. And the whole, from that discussion, it started off saying that we're talking about kids in the age group of like 8 to 15, 16 years old, and how the entire education system actually teaches them to compete and put each other down to sort of come up to the top, But the skills that they will actually make them successful are the other skills, which are like taking people along instead of pushing them back. So now we're talking about something called Harmonica Hurdle Junior, which is from age group of 10 to 14 or something, to tell them the beauty of collaboration, of empathy, of understanding each other and taking teams along. Just get that thing into the heads from a very young age, saying it's not, your life's purpose is not just to put other people down, but it's to take people along with you as you rise. So that's what we're discussing. Very interesting way of thinking for that gentleman actually. Yeah. Akash, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to add to whatever you said, because we do something very similar in the space of multiple intelligence. We run a company where we educate parents, telling that every child is born with something different. You cannot compare a child to what you or your wife is, and you need to understand. First is accept, second is acknowledge, and third is to appreciate or encourage them. These are 3 steps that we tell our parents. We do a lot of awareness work. So was very inspired by the thought process, the school that you are running. We do very similar on those lines. In fact, we have gone ahead and speaking to 2 schools in Goa to try and implement the process of what we know as output driven. Output driven is basically understand what a child is born with, what strength the child is, and give that to the child instead of giving a system which is input driven, which is already there, and you put them through the process and you get an engineer or a doctor.
Someone.
I have been struggling with the question for quite some time. Is comparison really a bad thing?
Good point. Competitiveness and comparison. Is it really a good thing or a bad thing? Depends on how it is used and where it is used. In an absolute term, I don't think it's going to do any great help to the child. If you think that the child is a bit lazy and I want this child to work harder and I want to push him a little bit along, prod him, I know he's capable of doing more than what he's doing, so I look at it. But there is no need to compare him with some other child and say, hey, I want you to go better, that child kind of thing.
Can I answer
So-
this question?
Yeah, by all means.
Hi, Chaya. Intrinsic comparison, yes. Extrinsic comparison, no. So, the point that you brought out of 42 marks, right? Maybe the child is 92, went down to 42, whatever reasons, but you can incrementally help the child to build his potential. So from 42, don't go straight to 92, but 42 maybe 50, maybe 60, maybe 70, and then 110 or 120. Right? So let the child compete with his own potential. Intrinsic, which is competency development that we are talking about, and not competitiveness, which is extrinsic. Whichever is extrinsic is very harmful. We always say depend on your intrinsic motivation because it goes long way, because the best helping hand you can get is at the end of your hand. So let everything be intrinsic. So going back to the basics of 7 habits, always says that grow your direct influence rather than being concerned so much from the outside that it becomes a pressure for you and your child. Because you putting your child to the pressure happens because you are under pressure.
Pressure, exactly.
So now if you start looking at your own self and build an intrinsic motivation and intrinsic competency, and build your own intrinsic competency to handle your child's situations. Don't handle your child, you'll be stressed.
Correct.
It's all about handling situations.
So that brings to a good point in terms of what some of the it's like they say this education piece is like gardening. You put the seed in, correct? You don't know whether the damn thing is going to grow. So you create the environment for it to grow, and pray God it grows. But create the environment for it to grow.
And
That's
don't
what they say.
regret if it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's okay if it doesn't work.
That's
So Chaya made a great point, but I think parents like us who come from the corporate world come with a very different thinking, which is very damaging, which is typically today they call it disruptive thinking. Disrupt. Today leaders say there is no incremental improvement. Talk about transformational. So and then we bring with that mindset, and then we try to implement that with our kids.
I have something to say. We always say don't carry your home to work and don't carry your work to home. So when you're left to corporates, leave it there.
Absolutely.
And go home.
No, the problem is that why does one have to leave the corporate to that? And why is it that these things come when you have attained a particular thing? You have been at a level, and so like many of us who have been at that level of attaining nirvana and then going for that stuff. There was a WhatsApp video which was circulating even in our group, and it's quite popular, about this art of living. This guy who comes and talks in the bus, and he says no farmer's son wants his son to be a farmer. It stems from that. So it is not the question of philosophically, unilaterally talking about these things until and unless we are there on the ground and trying to make it happen. Because most of the people, today there's a newspaper article that says for every cop there are 2 NGOs in this country. Unfortunately, the detrimental value that we put for an NGO, whether it is genuine or whether it is fake, goes with the fact of how many of them come up and how many of them actually intrinsically grow. Completely with the thought process, Ravi. My only question is that most of the people that we included, probably waiting for that level of saying, okay, I've had it enough, let me do something for the society. Why doesn't it start downwards up?
Yes.
Maybe the startups and the culture there is going to change this, because that's the way they work, that's the way they try to meet people. They are not getting into grades per se. You spoken about open school. Tell me which company, especially in India, would even accept IGNOU. They don't even accept Indira Gandhi National Open
100%.
University.
100% correct. That is the reality today. But that is what we should look at, seeing how do we change as leaders.
Sure.
Okay, no point asking somebody else to change it for us. We are in that position today. Let's go do that change. And you may be able to influence that change and make an incremental difference to it. You may not get to that nirvana stage, correct? You made your step. Hopefully someone will build on it and take it to the next step, and the change will happen gradually over a period of time. No change comes easy. Even our schools, our own schools that we are trying to get, all I'm trying to do is not even look at anything else, we're trying to get literacy going. Can the child communicate, as you said, correct? Mrs. Kulkarni told you this. 100% correct. I'm not looking at English. Can the child communicate?
Yeah.
Any language. So please, be able to stand up and speak something which can say what you want and what you are to another person. Beautifully put by Mrs. Kulkarni, but that's the truth.
So the dichotomy, Ravi, I mean, I know we have shot the 30-minute window,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and he has been quite benevolent with you. But having said that, the dichotomy is we have two individuals here. One who has claimed that he was very bad, he got a 42 versus 100, and he got promoted. So the academic curriculum allowed the 42 grader with a 100 grader to promote. Second, there is a person who got 48. So as long as he does the first 3 years, it's okay. You become a lateral, life becomes easy. Then you can speak, you can do. Then if you go about 8-10 years, then doesn't matter what you have done there because you're a lateral entry. So you can get moving around that. So, but at the end of it, there is a very typical fact of how we are looking at this entire system, and probably we ourselves are to blame when we craft these so-called strategies of the new intake of how we are going to look at them.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely correct. Our mind has to shift. Our mind has to shift. I'm not telling it's going to happen overnight. We're still wearing watches. So it's not going to shift overnight, but it will happen gradually.
So Ravi, what are you doing about teaching, educating parents about it?
So that is what we have a lot of parent workshops in our school which we do, which looks at how to shift the child. We have one-on-one conversations actually about their children to them to show this is where your child actually is blossoming. We are able to give that thing, and this multiple intelligence tool is helping us, in communicating that to parents. Now, how many parents look at it that way? We also take trouble in actually telling the parents. Our school tells our parents that the child is our customer. As parents, you are our economic buyers of our service. Okay?
Payment gateway.
Payment gateway. Correct. Payment gateway, yes. So, but the child is the customer. Everything has to be centered around the child. And I think that is where we can make that difference.
So Ravi, one question here. Who are the teachers?
All Montessorians.
No. Economic buyer, customers. How do you classify the teachers?
Stakeholders who are there to help. They are part of the environment that helps groom this child. That's it. As I said, we are all inputs. The school is an input. The school is only an input ingredient into the child. It's creating that environment for learning. All of us are inputs. Child is the center. And if we shift that, then hopefully things will start changing. We have seen some differences over the last 10 years that our school has been there. We've seen some differences. We're seeing how children from our school are going and performing in other schools. Not necessarily related only to education. Some of them are there. Some are swimming champions. Some are other things. But most importantly, have we shifted the mind of the parents to say that I'm willing to accept that? I think that's where the challenge is. We're not there yet. But I'm hoping that we'll get there.
Just add something. Okay. I also teach swimming. So when he said why you shouldn't compare, should we compare or we shouldn't compare? So when I teach about 15 children how to swim, each one is so different. There's somebody who picks it up fast, somebody who doesn't pick it up fast, somebody is a little more slow. I only ask them what is their name. Each one gives a different name. So we are all different. Let's face it, we cannot gauge ourselves like that. It is not going to be there. So there are some students, who will look at the other person, my God, this guy did it so fast, I can't do it. Why I can't do it? Or the parent will be sitting there and saying, you are not able to teach my child. Whereas the other, I said, see, everybody is different, don't worry about it, they will learn it. And the whole thing is, if you compare number of times, the child may feel that I'm a Buddha, I'm a dud.
Correct.
The whole thing, you know, the whole, when you start comparing too much with somebody, oh, that guy is doing this guy is doing this. The point is, he is different. So then I tell the students, see, if you can get inspired by that guy, see, that person will learn it fast. So don't worry, you take your time, but don't get depressed that I can't do it, boss. You will be able to do it also. The whole thing is that, you know, we keep comparing it so much that the peer pressure is so high that the child starts feeling that, okay, it's not me, I can't do this, it's not my cup of tea. And the person who can actually do it also, it's not that he can't do it. It's the person who actually sits and teaches the person how to get out of it. Maybe that works.
Also one step worse, where you know, you have a lion, a tiger and a deer, and you put them into competition and say, you know, whoever eats maximum amount of grass wins.
Exactly. Right? In fact, I was just in the morning only when I was speaking to him, it's like a fish is supposed to swim and the bird is supposed to fly. But why are we comparing everybody with that same education system that we have? You know, we all talk about CBSE or this, that, and everybody has to go through that whole level, and then we call him, oh, you can't study, you can't do anything, boss. The point is, he can't do it. He's got a whole lot of other talent. And I tell you, a lot of people who do not know English even, say, and they are much, much better off, more successful than us. They have millions of rupees also, those who do not know English also. There are lots. You go to the smaller villages or the towns or things, not even in Bangalore, I'll show you a lot of people who are doing fantastic. And they do not know English. So it doesn't really matter actually the language, as long as you can speak and do it. So a person in the village also can do wonders.
So who's the winner, the lion, the deer, or? I think it's the lion, because you know the lion ultimately eats the grass which is eaten by the deer.
In fact,
that makes him a vegetarian.
But he's stressed out. He's stressed out looking at the bloody grass and thinking, how am I going to eat it?
In fact, I'm into the life skills training, and somebody told me that there was this John Rockefeller in the US who was very rich. He was supposed to be very, very rich. And what he did was, he used to fund all the educational institutions in America. He used to fund them, and he changed the whole education system there also. Just the way in a factory you need components, he made human robots. He made human robots. And that system was changed in the UK. That same system, the British passed it on to us, and that's what we'll end up doing. We are only making human robots basically after our school, that this person is going to come here, do what I say, and he's going to do that.
And then there was an American who sang that, you know, saying we don't need no education, just another brick in the wall.
Yeah.
Yes. So what happens is, we definitely need to change our education system. How? And I'm so glad that you are doing quite a lot of that, which is excellent. But we need to change that system, because we are always, you know, maths nahi aata hai to tu gaya kaam se.
I want to tell you a story which you can use very similar to this, and this happens to come from a very, very renowned scientist, CSIR DG, Prime Minister's Scientific Advisor, Dr. Sameer Ramachari. He happens to be my maternal uncle from my aunt's side. I learned maths from him. I was very bad at maths, but I learned maths from him in 8th standard when he was a scientist in ISC. And I bought action shoes because I was studying in Lovedale. And I was failing in maths, and I bought action shoes at $250, and he slapped me. And he said, how can you buy action shoes while failing in maths? So that was a comparison. But he brought up the hard way, he's come, and I remembered that, you know, so I kept going and I kept remembering that. His son, both of them are renowned scientists, worldwide scientists in genome. His son was in the US, came back, could not spell alphabets correctly, had a lot of issues and complete dyslexic symptoms. They put him in Shrishti school in Gurgaon when they came back here in India. They were the scientific advisor of the Prime Minister, very well off, staying in Maharani Bagh, those of you who know Delhi, big house, and their son was not cranking. Daughter, London School of Economics, very good. Son was just not cranking, he was the elder one. However, he was very handsome, grew about 6'2" when he was in 11th standard, a lot of girlfriends, but was not doing well in studies. Father had a lot of cars, and one day I went to their house and I saw him driving in a Honda Civic out. So I went back to my mama and I said, Nantu mama, that's what I call him. I said, 8th standard, 250 rupees Adidas action shoes, and you slapped me. And this bugger is going in a Honda Civic, chauffeur driven that too, and nothing. Of course, he's a scientist, he had some story to say. He said, listen, I realized one thing over the years after I slapped you. I said, what is it? He said, you know what, in life what I've realized is that when I slapped you, I thought you will never do anything in life. But now I realize that no matter what this guy does, he may not be able to afford a Honda Civic, but Maruti 800 zarur le lega. Because the life would have taught him. Now, unfortunately,
so, thank you very much, Ravi, for this wonderful session. And you asked me how long should you speak, and I just, said 30 minutes. That was notional. I knew you will figure it out when you come in here. You are addressing a group of L&D professionals, so all bring in their own experiences in life. So I think we have probably crossed more than an hour, and it was a very insightful session. Ravi, I think that's what I can see from the interaction from all the members. So I think they found it very, very useful. And as a mark of our love and affection for you, Ravi, I would like to now we would like to give a small gift to you. I was thinking, whom should I call, Ajay or Santanu? But Santanu failed in maths. Ajay got 42 in maths. That's why I'm calling him. Comparison. So Ajay, if you can present this.